So yesterday we discussed what are the topics which we are going to cover in this course. So the people, I think only Ganesh is not there yesterday. The rest of the people were there. So you can just go through our yesterday's recording or in our YouTube channel also it is available. Just these are the topics which we are going to cover. In briefly, I discussed all the things. So you can just go through it. Okay, these are the topics which we are going to cover in this 1 month course. Now, today we will discuss very important thing, file system, where we can discuss the structure of the Linux OS. So we are more familiar with Windows. So first we'll start with the structure of the Windows and what is the advantage in Windows and what is the disadvantage in Windows. We'll see that. After that, we'll go to the structure of the Linux. Okay. So in between, if you are getting any questions, any doubts, you can write it in the chat box. I will reply you. Okay. So let me start with the structure of the first Windows OS because most of the people are familiar with Windows. So let us assume this is our machine in which a Windows OS is installed. Like most of the computers are working on Windows, but for client purpose. Most of the servers are working on Linux. Remember this. So now, once we install the Windows OS in our machine, where exactly this OS will get installed? This OS will get installed on the C drive. So Windows OS get installed where? On the C drive. So drive is a collection of folders. So this C drive contain multiple folders. In that, what are the important folders that we will discuss? So one of the important folder under the C drive is Windows folder. Again, this Windows folder contain subfolders like System32, drivers, audio, video, all drivers will be here. The log files, user activities, the log files will be there. It will also contain temporary file. So these are the important subfolders in Windows folder. Then we have another important folder under the C drive with the name called program files. So we have another important folder with the name called program files, which contain all installed application software. So whenever we install any application, whenever we install any application in Windows, where it will get installed? Where it will get installed? In Windows? Can you just write it? Anybody? When we install in Windows, where did that application get installed?
In program file.
Yes, in program files. That's what I'm telling you. Okay, yes, Ganesh, right. So program file contain what? All installed application. Now, the most important folder is a folder called users. A folder called users. So in this folder called users, what happened? It contain users data. So one of the important user is administrator. So administrator created data will be there in the users administrator folder. So there will be a subfolder under user with a name called administrator, which contain administrator user data. Now, as the administrator, suppose you have created a user called U1. So now the U1 has logged in and created some data. Data will be in the form of files and folders. So that contain U1 users created files and folder. Now another user is created with the name, say suppose user2. So a user2 folder will be there. So this folder2, user2 folder contain user2 created files and folder. Okay. So like that for each and every user with what name you create a user as the administrator, that user folder will be created in users. So when that user login and creates any file or folder, where exactly to be stored? In C drive users, that particular user name folder. Suppose I want to check U1 data. So as a U1, I have logged in and created some files and folder. Where I should check? Go to the first C drive, then users, under that U1 folder. Okay. So that is what happens in the window. So it is very easy to so now here, what is the advantage with Windows? The OS is installed on single drive. So what is the advantage? It is very simple to operate, easy to operate. This OS is easy to operate. But in this, the problem or disadvantage is, suppose this user, while working, downloaded some file which contain virus. So, so now, once that user got uh, downloaded the virus file or it downloaded some file which contain virus. So once this folder get affected, what will happen in Windows? That effect will not be limited to here. So this folder belong to which one? Users. So once one of the user folder or any one of the OS folder in Windows get affected, now ultimately what it will do? Now this folder belongs to which main folder? Users. So U1 belong to where? Users. So once one of the user folder get affected, now it will ultimately
Sir, we can't hear you. Your voice is not audible.
affect what? Users folder. Now this user folder belong to where? Belongs to whom? The You are able to hear me now? I think there was some internet issue. So internet got disconnected. Again, it came. That's why.
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's fine now.
Sorry, there was some, I think, internet issue. So the recording got stopped, I think. Just to give me a minute. I need to contact our people who will be starting the. Just give me a minute. Okay, I got it back. So let me continue. You are able to hear me? Yes, can I continue?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So anybody left the session? Uh, just a minute. Okay. So now, did you understood what is the issue or problem in Windows? It is easy to operate, but the main problem in Windows is what? If one of the OS folder get affected, ultimately what will happen? What will happen ultimately in Windows? Yes, did you understood what will happen ultimately? Once the OS folder get affected in Windows, one of the OS folder get affected, what happens? If you understood, please write it. I have written here also, I've shown it. Yes, it will affect what? Entire OS. It will affect what? Ganesh. It will affect ultimately what? Entire OS. This is the one of the biggest drawback. Yes. Are you following everyone? Are you following everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So this is the problem in Windows. It's easy to operate, but if once the one of the OS folder get corrupted, it will affect the entire OS. So this problem will not arise in Linux because the Linux OS will be installed. Windows OS is installed on how many partition? Single partition. But Linux OS, which I'll be showing you tomorrow, installation can be done on multiple partition, which you cannot do in Windows. So now let us take same scenario in the Linux environment. Now let us take the same scenario in Linux environment. So now having a computer, let us understand a computer now installed with the Linux operating system. Now in this computer, we have installed Linux OS instead of Windows. So Windows OS get installed where in C drive, whereas the Linux OS will get installed on the slash. The Linux OS will get installed on slash. So there is no drive letter in Linux. So the Linux OS is based on the directory. So this slash is called This slash is called root directory. Forward slash is it. It is a main directory. So it is equivalent to like C drive. In Windows, we have C drive where Windows OS will be there. Whereas in Linux, it is a directory. Which directory? Slash. So slash is called root directory. Slash is called root directory where it contains the Linux OS. C drive contains Windows OS. Root directory contains Linux OS. So please concentrate everybody. So it contains Linux operating system. Now, like C drive contain many folders, same way slash directory, which is the main directory of Linux OS, contain many subdirectories. Many subdirectories. One of the subdirectories is slash root. We should not say this as a root. This is a slash root. Then another subdirectory is like this. So many subdirectories will be created. Slash root, slash, I'm just writing main directories. Slash home, slash USR, like this. Some main directories will be created. Once we install the Linux OS, these many subdirectories will be created. Do we need to create this manually? No. Like, are we creating this program file, user, system32, drivers, lock? No, they created automatically when we install the Windows OS. So same way, when we install the Linux OS, all these subdirectories will get created. So what is the main difference between Windows and Linux is, in Linux, when we install the OS, there is no drive letter. Here, the OS is based on directory. So Linux OS get installed on slash, which is called root directory. So this slash contain many subdirectories. So that's why while reading their name, we have to say slash, slash root, slash boot, slash home, slash US. These are the sum of the directories. Like that, many subdirectories will be created. So the important thing is, while doing the Linux installation, now slash home contain all users' data. Like here, if U1 is there, so U1 folder will be there. Same like in Windows, user folder will be there, no? Same way. Equivalent to user folder, we have slash home. If user2 is created, it will have user2 folder. So it contain U1 data. It contain U2 data. Now here, slash root contain root user data. So who is root here? Root. So you have to remember in Windows, administrator is called administrator, whereas the root here is called administrator user account. In Windows, the administrator account is called administrator, whereas in Linux, root is called administrator. So when root login and creates the data, so root user created data. When we say only root, it is a user. When we say root directory, it is a slash, forward slash. Root directory means slash, which contain Linux OS. Slash root contain root user data. Slash boot contain Linux. Main part of the Linux OS is Linux kernel. So it will be present in slash boot. And users except root, all other user data will be in slash home. So while doing the installation in Linux, we can create one partition to this. One partition will create for the slash. We can create one more partition for the slash boot. Now we can create the third partition for slash home like this. Multiple partition while OS is installing, we can do, which we can't do in Windows. So what is the advantage? If suppose due to any reason, this folder got affected due to any reason. First of all, when we work in Linux with the command, virus cannot enter. Let us assume virus or something have got affected U1 folder. So once the U1 folder get affected in Linux, what happened? It will affect maximum what? Slash home, because we have created separate partition. So the effect will be limited are restricted up to /home. It will not affect the slash which contain the Linux OS. Are you understanding? So in Linux, if one of the OS folder get affected, it will not affect the entire OS because Linux OS can be installed on multiple partition. So if a particular folder get affected, that folder belong to which particular OS folder, that only will get affected in Linux, not entire OS, because Linux OS can be installed on multiple partition, which you cannot do in Windows or other OS. Are you understanding? What is the advantage of Windows? What is the advantage of Linux over Windows structure? Whether I am clear to everybody?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Yes.
Okay. So now, if you install any application, any software, where it will be stored in Windows? In program file. Whereas in the Linux, where the application will be there, all installed application will be there in /usr. So these are the some of the main directives. Now, let me explain to you each and every directory in detail. So this is the structure of the Linux OS, which is called file system. File system means it shows how the data is arranged, where exactly what data will be stored. So if you want to work on the Linux operating system, first thing you have to remember is when we install the Linux OS, where it will get installed? It will get installed on the slash, which is called root directory. In this, there is no drive letter. And the administrator name in Linux is root. Can you change this name? No. So administrator name in Linux is what? Root. So when we install the Linux OS, where it will get installed? On the slash, which is called root directory, which is similar to C drive. So now all the subdirectories are created automatically once we install the Linux OS. One of the subdirectories is /root, which contain root user data. Then one of the, so this is the diagram. So let me explain you one by one, each and everything. So this is the Linux OS structure. So when we install the Linux OS, where it will get installed? On the slash, which is called root directory. So under the root directory, these are the many subdirectories. So while reading their name, we have to say slash before name, like /bin, /proc, /boot, /root, /dev, /sb, /etc, /srv, /home, /sys, /lib, /temporary, /media, /usr, /mnt, /web, /opt. So these are the subdirectory. This is the main directory. So when we install the Linux OS, these many OS subdirectories will be created. So out of these, the important subdirectories like the /home, which contain users data, will make one separate partition for /home. So Linux, most important part of the Linux OS is Linux kernel. So that will be stored in /boot. So we'll create one separate partition for /boot. So minimum recommended is 4 partition. One for slash, one for /boot, one for /home. Now one for swap, or if you want to create application server, so you will create separate partition for /usr. Now you want to make a user database server, third partition separate for /home. No, you want to make this as a log server, third partition should be /usr. Like, depending upon which type of server you want to configure, you have to create that particular partition for that particular directory. Like for user server /home, for syslog server /usr, for application server /usr, third partition. So whenever we install Linux OS, this many directories will be created default. So what we can do in Linux when we are installing the Linux OS, whichever important subdirectories are there, we can allocate them separate partition, which we cannot do in Windows. So what is the advantage of that? If anything happens to one of the OS folder, that effect will remain or will be restricted or limited to that particular location without affecting the entire OS. So I hope you understood this, the advantage of Linux structure over the Windows structure. So Linux will work much faster compared to Windows. Only thing here is initially Linux will be little bit tough initially, but as you practice it, so the secret of good to be good in mathematics is practice. Don't mug up or read anything in maths. Just practice it. Same way, if you want to become good in Linux, practice it. The more you practice, more easier the Linux will become. There is This is the only secret for working on the Linux. Practice it. Okay. So now let me explain you each and every subdirectory. What exactly stores in which particular directory. So first directory is /root. So slash is called the root directory, which contain Linux operating system, similar to like C drive in Windows. And all the other directories are placed under it or will be created under it by default when we install the Windows OS. Sorry, when we install the Linux OS, the Linux OS get installed on slash. The slash will have many subdirectories, which is created default whenever we install the Linux OS. While installing the Linux OS, we can install the Linux OS on multiple partitions, so that if one of the OS folder get corrupted, that effect will be remain to that particular partition without affecting entire OS, which will happen in Windows. So I hope you are understanding. So slash contain Linux OS, similar to like C drive. Then in the slash, many subdirectories will be created. One of them is /root. So /root is called the home directory of root user, because who is root in Linux? Don't forget, who is root? Root is a administrator. Who is root? Root is a user. Which user? Root is a administrator user. So when we log in as a root user and create any files and directory, where it will be stored in Linux, root created data will be stored where? In /root. /root is called the home directory of root user, which contain root user created files and directory. Now, if any user log in and creates the data, user created data will be stored where? In /home. /home is the home directory of all users except root. Root home directory /root. Rest of the user home directory /home. So in the /home, for each and every user, one folder will be created with their name, like U1. So U1 data will be stored in /home/U1. U2 user data will be stored in /home/U2, like that. So I hope you are understanding. /home contain all users data, whereas /root contain root user data. Now /boot contain bootable file, bootloader, and kernel. Bootloader means GRUB, it is called Grand Unified Bootloader, bootable file and bootloader. Through which, so using this bootloader, bootable file and kernel, the Linux OS will get loaded, or the Linux OS will load the, or the /boot directory will load the Linux OS from the hard disk to RAM. Then only we will get the login screen. So which directory will load the OS? /boot directory will load the Linux OS from hard disk to RAM when we power on the machine. Once the Linux OS get loaded from the hard disk to RAM, then only we will get the login screen. So /boot contain bootable file, bootloader, and kernel. So using these three things, it will do the loading of the OS. So that complete detail we will discuss, complete one full session under the topic called booting process. So in the booting process, how the /boot will load the OS in detail, we'll discuss in booting class after 4 to 5 days. Today we just remember /boot directory contain bootable file, bootloader, and kernel, through which it will load the OS from hard disk to RAM. After that, we will get the login screen. Are you understanding, everybody? Is it clear up to this? If it is yes, I'll proceed to next point. If no means, you please ask me. What is the doubt you are having?
Yeah, it's clear,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So now next is what? /bin. So /bin full form is binary. So /bin Do we create any separate partition? No. So will it be there? Yes. So whatever space it needs to perform its role, it will take the space from slash, like in Windows, the folders or subfolders will take the space from the C drive. Same way in Linux, the partition or the folder to whom we have not created separate partition, they will take the space from the slash, and to whom we have created the separate partition, subdirectories. They remain the part of the OS, but they will be having separate partitions. So they will be not depending to perform their work for the space. So they will be not depending for the space on the slash. They will have their own space, so they will do their work without taking space from the slash. That's why Linux structure is more safe and better and faster architecture-wise. So now there is one folder called slash bin, which is called binary. So that folder contain list of commands which can be used by any user, like ls, cat, cd. So this type of commands can be used by any user will be present in slash bin, which is called binary. Same way, there is one more folder with the name slash sbin, which is called system binary. It contains list of commands which can be used only by one user. Who is that user? So whatever command present in bin can be used by all user using, uh, including root user. But whatever commands present in another folder called sbin, system binary. So it contains list of commands which can be used only by one user. Who is that one user? That is the root user. Yes, administrator here is called root. So whatever commands present in sbin, can any user use that? No, only root user can use. So root can use the command which is present in bin. Yes, root can use any command, whether it is present in bin or binary. Sorry, bin or sbin. But rest of the users, they can use the commands which are present in bin, but not sbin. Is it clear? Is it clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Okay. Now, next USR. USR full form, Unix System Resource. So USR full form, Unix System Resource. So it is similar to like program file. So in Linux, whenever we install any application, where it will be installed slash USR. Like when we install any application in Windows, where it will get installed in program file. Same way, whenever we install any application in Linux, where it will be stored, it will be stored in the USR. So USR is similar to like program file. Next one is what? Slash etc. etc called etc, which contain configuration file. So please remember, when we install any application, the application will be stored in software or application will be stored in USR. But that application create one file. That file is called configuration file, which will be stored in the etc. So that configuration file have the information like service startup script file, configuration. Does etc contain information of main configuration file, similar to like Windows registry. Then you have slash dev. Next you have slash dev, which is called devices, which contain hardware devices information. Slash USR contain software information, whereas slash dev contain hardware devices information. Like if anybody asks us to check the hard disk size, where we have to go and check how many parts are there. If somebody asks, where we have to go and check it? In slash dev. Slash dev contain hardware devices information, whereas USR contain software information, application information. Dev contain hardware devices information. etc contain configuration file. Same way, var, which is called variable, contain log files, which contain the user's activity, what they have done. So var contain variable data such as log files. Then lib contain library files. OPT is a empty directory which is used to download and install third-party application. So whatever application we are getting inbuilt with our OS, when we install that, it will get installed on /usr. But sometimes you need some application which may not be present with your OS. So first we have to download the application from internet and install it. So that is called third party. So third party install application will be stored by default in OPT. Inbuilt install application will be stored in /usr. OPT contain third party install application. Then media is used to access the partition, CD, DVD. So in Windows, everything is accessed with drive letter. In Linux, everything is accessed with a directory. So if you want to access the pen drive in Windows, you will access through new drive letter. In Linux, we have to access with directory. Which directory is created for that purpose? Media. Or you can say /media is the directory which can be used to access the removable storage devices like CD, DVD, USB, like that. Then there is one more directory empty called MNT, which is used to access the partition. In Windows, whenever we create any new partition will be accessed with a new drive letter. Same way, in Linux, when you create new partition, that partition can be accessed with the help of the directory. So in Windows, everything is accessed with a drive letter. In Linux, everything is accessed through a directory. So we also have a directory called temp, which contains temporary file. So there is one folder which is called lost plus found. So this lost plus found folder will be present in a directory which is used to access the partition, which is by using the command called mount. So mounted partition contain one folder by default. So how we can understand that is a normal directory or the mounted directory? So in that, you can see one folder called lost plus found. So this folder will be created by default when we use the directory to access the partition. So that is called mounted directory contain lost plus found folder. So what is the use of that? When the system crash unexpectedly, some of the file fragments will be stored in the lost plus found. So during the system startup, we can use the inbuilt tool called FSCK, file system tool, file system checking tool, which will check this directory and repair the damaged file. So whenever system crashes or shut down unexpectedly, those related files will be stored in the lost plus found. So using the FSCK tool, we can check this lost plus found directory and repair our damaged system. Okay. So now see, this is the overall structure. Slash is called root directory, which contain Linux OS. /bin is called binary, which contain commands which can be used by all users. /proc contain the proc detail, something. Then /boot contain Linux kernel bootable file bootloader through which it will load the OS. Booting process it will do. /root contain root user data. /dev contain hardware devices information. /bin contain installed application. /bin contain list of commands which can be used by only one user. So root can use any command, whether it is present in bin or SB. But rest of the user can use only bin command, but not SB. Then /etc configuration file equivalent to registry file. SRV service file. /home all users data. This system related file, library file. Then media after lib, temporary. Temporary files are used to is used for what purpose? Contain temporary file. Temp. Folder /media is used to access the partition or DVD or pen drive. USR contain install application. MNT is used to access the third party application. USR contain log file. OPT contain third-party installed application. So this is the overall structure of Windows. Now you got idea where exactly what data stores. Is it clear? So when we install the Linux OS, which we'll do tomorrow, we have to install the Linux OS minimum on 4 partitions. So one should be created for slash, second for slash root. If you are creating user database server, third partition slash root. Fourth will be the swap, which is a logical memory. So how to do that? We'll see that tomorrow. So before I close the session, if anybody have any questions, any doubt, you can unmute your mic and you can speak. Yes. Yes, anybody, any question, any doubt?
No doubt, sir.
So then can I close the session?
Sunil, just on Saturday, so you're going to take class or off Saturday and
Sorry,
Sunday?
your voice is
Saturday and
Ah.
Sunday.
Sunday I'll not take. Mostly
Okay.
on Saturday I'll take. If it is some work, I'll not take. But mostly I'll take Saturday also.
Okay.
So I'm sending you the required file. And rest of the people, please don't mind anything. Just I reminded you. So please do it at least by tomorrow, the payment. Okay. And one small request, Ganesh, did you understood today's session?
Yes, sir.
Because it was the first class. Oh, okay. If you get the time, please see the previous sessions. Just introduction part, please. Okay. So can I close the session?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jensen, I'll be forwarding your number to our consult people. They'll contact you tomorrow. They'll help you to
Okay.
make the payment. Oh,
Okay.
so-
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Good night. See you tomorrow. I'm closing the session.
Good night,
Good
sir.
night.